Welcome back to the Lipoedema podcast. We're your host, Shell.
And Tiana, and today we are joined by leadership and empowerment coach and chronic illness warrior, Katsanos. Alyce, it's so good to
Hi,
see you.
girls. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. And it's so good because we already know you in person.
It makes it easier,
So,
right?
Yeah, makes it easier for me too.
yeah.
A little less scary.
Not as nervous. I'm going to start today. Where does your lipedema journey start?
You know, I have this first memory of what I now know was lipedema. And it was when I was a little girl. I was probably maybe 10 years old. I was in year 2 at school. And I don't remember why, but everyone in the class was being weighed. And then we had to line up lightest to heaviest. And I remember it as if it happened today. And I was the second heaviest in the class, bar one very tall boy. And I still remember the exact weight that got written on my little card. And it was 41 kilos. And I just felt awful. It was like it had just confirmed all the things I had believed previously, that I was this fat, chubby kid and that's what everyone saw. And you know, I was the kid that couldn't cross my legs in school because my thighs and my calves were too big. They just didn't allow that to happen. But I was so active. I played soccer every day. I played softball. I was a competition swimmer. And my mum and dad made sure that I was always eating really well. And so I was just always this big kid. And I think, you know, when I talked to my mum after I got diagnosed in my 30s, she said, wow, I wonder if you could have had it from when you were a baby, because she'd actually taken me to all of these specialists as a bub because I had this really chubby, hard fat in my bottom and thighs. And she said, there's something not right here. She said, this is weird. It's hard. And everyone said, no, it's just puppy fat. It'll come off. And it never did. So that's kind of where my journey began.
That's crazy. Remember when we had Sharon Franz on and she said Nikki, her daughter, was the same, that she thought she was born with it because her bum and her upper thighs were so hard fat.
That's fascinating because that's not common that we hear. We mostly hear that it sort of presents at puberty and sometimes even later for some people. And so that's really interesting. And gosh, I wonder. And you couldn't test it, could you? But gosh, I wonder.
Exactly. And look, it's certainly, don't get me wrong, puberty hit and it exploded. And then I had some struggles with endometriosis in my kind of late 20s, early 30s, and it exploded again. And that was when I finally got a diagnosis. But absolutely, from when I was this kid, I had this tiny little waist, flat tummy, really curvy hips and thighs.
That's also really hard. And I'm thinking back to my childhood to get clothes as a child, to fit into child clothing that doesn't account for curves. And you
actually don't.
You don't.
No, it's not until the women's sizing that they actually put the waist smaller and things like that. Otherwise, it's pretty much straight up and down in the kids section.
Yeah. You're like shopping at Suzanne's at the age of 11 and 12.
Absolutely. I mean, spot on. Suzanne was actually one of the places we went, right? Or the petite section in Maya for women. So I was shorter, so I went into petites. Because I could still get the bigger sizes.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad were always so incredible with making sure that I had, clothes that fit. And my mum, I was lucky, she was a fashion teacher at TAFE. So she was able to alter clothes and things like that for me. So I was incredibly lucky. But yeah, the reality is, had I not had that kind of support, I would have really struggled as a kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that could have gone a terrible, terrible road.
Parenting is so in the front of my mind, having girls, and we've spoken about this before, having great parents that are supportive regardless of those struggles, especially size struggles when you're younger. But my question for you, Alyce, is apart from the fact that your body was disproportionate at such an early age, did you experience other symptoms of now that you now know is lipedema?
Yeah. And it's incredible to think. I remember getting diagnosed, I was early 30s, and it was that moment of validation and intense realization that, oh my goodness, all of this stuff that no one could explain, that I felt like an idiot going to a doctor for, even in my, kind of early teens, was lipedema. I had such sore legs all the time. And I remember saying to my parents, because I was so active, oh, they feel heavy, So I went from playing soccer to saying I actually can't anymore because I just feel heavy running around the field. So I would play for fun, but I dropped out of any competition. And swimming was like my go-to. And surprise, surprise, we float really bloody easily. So I was like a fish. That was kind of my superpower. But yeah, I think the pain looking back was incredible. And to think that as a kid, we hold that is pretty intense, and to not know where it's coming from. And then, of course, the heaviness and the fatigue. In my mid-teens, 14, 15, I really started to suffer from this incredible fatigue. And I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. But looking back, part of me wonders, is it chronic fatigue, or was it just the reality of living with lipedema? Yeah, and some of the, the linked things like Ehlers-Danlos. So, I've always been very flexible, and I had to do my HSC standing up because the way I studied with my legs up in the air and tucked under me and all of that wrecked my back. And, there were all sorts of kind of signs. But yeah, so looking back, yeah, heaps that I can see was lipedema.
Yeah, it's crazy once you hear that word and all those puzzle pieces just start dropping into place. And you're like, I'm trying to find an answer, and one word just brings it all together.
Pretty much.
Wow. Yeah. And what has your journey with your body looked like over the years?
Yeah, if I'm really honest and I just get rid of all that masky bullshit, excuse the term,
Yep.
it's been a fight. That is the word I would use. I feel like I spent the vast majority of my life at war with my body. I had always felt like it had failed me and that it made life harder than it needed to be. And, I have lipedema, but I also have several other chronic illnesses. So I have a really rare form of migraine. I've got endometriosis and adenomyosis, fibromyalgia, and also FND. So I always felt at war until more recently, where I've done a lot of work on myself over the last few years and realised that I can actually drive the bus and I don't have to be at war with my body anymore. But what I actually need to be is a little bit compassionate with myself and with my body. So rather than being so stubborn and pushing it all the time, saying, it doesn't matter if you're in pain, it doesn't matter if you're tired, you're going to keep doing it because you've got things to do, lady. I still achieve everything that I want to. It's just in a little bit of a softer, more compassionate way.
It's nice to hear because I feel like our audience will resonate with the fact that they're probably not there yet, like in terms of giving themselves that grace that you're talking about right now, but we should be. Like, we should be always working towards that. It's really hard in life now where life is so demanding and you got to get out of bed and you got to do stuff. And it's like, oh, well, I'll just do it and forget about what I feel. Actually, how we feel is such a big driver of what we do.
Yeah. And I think I've been doing some work with some coaches lately with trauma and things like that. And I've discovered that over the years, I disconnected from my body because I was at war with it. So I treated it as a separate entity. Whereas now I'm slowly learning to connect and be together. Like, so, being the driver or being the captain of this ship, and seeing what the seas are like. And, you can't make sure every seas are calm, but you need to know how to navigate it as you're going through. And I love that. Like, I have felt so good. So it's just amazing, the difference that just connecting. It is. And I said that to my because I had a psychologist appointment yesterday. I said, silly things like, I've never touched my green bin. And then the other day I'm like, there's some palm fronds fallen off. And I put them in the green bin. Like, who am I?
Gross.
That I was that present of mind and not in my head that I was able to notice that the palm fronds could go in the green bin. It's those silly little things that I'm really noticing. And I'm like, who am I?
Yeah. And there's something beautiful about it, right? To feel that, finally feel a connection to your own body. I like you, Shell, I just didn't feel connected. It was like it was someone else's. And connecting it and realizing that, it is part of me. It is me. And I can be nice to it, but I can also be aware, and just realize that I'm not defined by the illnesses or by the things that come off the back of it. And actually, you know, as horrible as all the trauma that we go through can be, you know, there's a way to almost have it influence how awesome we can be when we take off that mask and actually reveal who we are underneath it.
Yeah.
You're right. It's true. Like living our authentic selves and just, coming we are, being okay with the fact if we wake up in it, like feeling not that great. It's like, well, I'll do this in like anyway, alongside it rather than in spite of it. It's a different energy. Like it's the same action, but it's a different energy and intention. And I feel like it's that energy and intention that makes it good or makes it hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's all about
Absolutely.
mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just like off the back of that, just because I like to come back to the practical. So can you give an example of what that might look like? So something that that's really changed in your life, the intention has changed or the energy has changed about it, and has it influenced the action or not? Sort of thing. Is it the same action like we were just saying, or is it a different action? Do you have an example?
Yeah. I have a really simple example.
Of that?
I've always, because I've struggled with weight, always been on this constant exercise diet, treadmill. We all know what that feels like. And so for me, walking had always been a thing I did to try and lose weight.
Gotcha.
It was not a thing for me. It was not a thing for my mindset. It was not anything other than just put the shoes on and go for a walk and let's hope that we can lose some weight. And through all the work I've done over the past few years, walking actually became a healing thing for me. So, I went through a really rough divorce a couple of years ago and I was sick at the same time. And I used to just put the walking shoes on and it wasn't about losing weight. It wasn't about getting exercise. I would walk and it wasn't fast. It was just a walk. And it was by myself always. And it was, whether it was 10 minutes or an hour, it was that opportunity to come back to my body. And I would just walk and think about what I was feeling that day. Was I feeling pain? Was I feeling disconnected? Was it a great day? Was I feeling really aligned? And what was I going to do with that incredible energy? And changing that one simple thing and sticking to it pretty much every day, even when I feel like absolute crap, is the thing that brings me back to myself. I mean, that's my thing. And someone else's might be having a cuppa on the veranda, right? But for me, it's the thing that I know it's my constant. And it brings me
love that
awareness.
example. Especially for, and because we privileged to know you personally, but I know that you have mobility aid that you use sometimes and sometimes
Absolutely.
not. So when you're talking about, in my mind, when you were saying sometimes that walk would be maybe just 10 minutes and sometimes it would be an hour, my mind was like, okay, was that like you physically checking in with your body, knowing that you could only go a certain yeah, is that correct?
Yeah,
Reading that
absolutely.
correctly?
And that's something that I wouldn't have done before. Before, and I use a walking stick for my migraines and for my FND. And, before I would have done one of two things and it just depended on the day. I would have said, no, I'm not going for a walk because I feel like crap and, nothing can help me. Or I would have said, I'm going to go and I'm going to go for an hour because I need to do this. And now I just go, okay, we're going to step out the front door and we're just going to see how we land. And sometimes, usually I go alone. That's kind of my thing. But sometimes, for example, I'll be feeling so wobbly that my partner will come with me, but he also knows that it's kind of my reset time. Yeah. And so he respects that. And he'll either stay quiet and do his own thing. So it's kind of like we're both meditating while we're walking. Or he'll check in and, if there's something I want to talk through, he'll let me do it. And so I think it's brought a whole new respect to what my body needs and just acknowledging it and saying that's okay. It doesn't make me weak or broken or anything that I might have thought in the past. It just means that I am giving my body the nourishment that it needs and listening to it enough that I can do something awesome the next day and the day after that rather than crashing all the time.
Yeah. that intention switch is so, so powerful. Like from I need to walk because I need to lose weight to I'm going for a walk because I need to reset. I need to connect. Even the way I said that then, you could, you can feel
you
the
feel the
difference.
energy.
Yeah, the
It
energy
feels an energy.
differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
guys, like I am so far from perfect. And part of reconnecting with yourself and finding self-love, like there's days where you fall back into old habits, right? And there are certainly days when I just go, can't be bothered today, feel like crap, you know. And that's okay. That's the other part of this is going, okay, all right, fair, but
Yeah.
just be nice to
I
yourself.
think it's more about how quickly you pick yourself back up. Like that's something that was said to me. Like it's not how often you fall, you get faster at picking yourself back up. I
It
think
doesn't
that's
shake you as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
true.
keep you down for as long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alyce, you mentioned earlier about the fact that you went through a divorce and you also got sick. So you've obviously navigated some big life transitions over a few years. Can you just discuss what stands out to you when you look back at those chapters?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been through a few and I'm quite open about them, you know, including 2 divorces. That's, you know, we have a joke in my family if I'm trying to rack and stack husbands, which I'm not. But, you know, part of me actually navigating is to be open.
Yeah.
And I learnt something partway through my corporate career where I was, you know, trying to climb this ladder. I was in mostly male dominated industries and I really had my sights set on executive leadership and I kept climbing, but I wasn't being me. Like I was hiding the illnesses. I was hiding the stuff that was going on at home, you know, and turning up with this mask every day. And through being coached, I finally realized I can't keep doing this. And that last kind of major thing, which was my second divorce, which was really hard, that was a turning point for me. Up until then, I kind of knew I was strong, but I didn't hold love or compassion for myself. And I just always had goals and I had blinkers on to get to them and never came up for air. And then when suddenly this kind of my world crashed around me very quickly out of the blue, I realized that all I really could rely on was me. And I could either love me and trust me and back myself in, or I could not, and I don't think the result would be very good. So I started making small moves. I started sharing more with my team at work about what was going on. Not gory details. They don't need to know everything. That's my private life. But, you know, I'd acknowledge when I was having a really bad day with my health or, you know, when it had been really rough night, you know, with my ex-partner or whatever it might have been. And the more human I became and the more this mask started to drop, the more my team started to perform. The more they came to me, the more influence I started to have. And I thought, oh, there's something to this. And so I kept doing it. And the last big step for me was actually backing myself in. I'd never been a risk taker. I'd always been a typical project manager, right? Like I analyze all the risks and all the mitigants. And then, you know, I take the path of least resistance and try not to have anything explode. So I decided I was going to take the ultimate risk and back myself in and move to Victoria from Sydney with nothing but a car full of clothes on my own because something was drawing me there and because I felt it was what I needed to do for me. And for the first time, I put some boundaries up with family and friends and said, I understand how you feel about me doing this, you know, with little notice. I think I gave everyone 2 weeks notice. And I said, but I'm backing myself on this. I believe it's what I need to do. And it is hands down the best move I ever made. I have learnt to realize that I have got me. And when you realize you've got you and you can trust you, everything else kind of settles. The anxiety of everything every day settles because you go, I can do this. I've done this before. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. I still have days when my anxiety is off the charts. You just have to ask my partner about that. But, you know, all in all, I know I can back myself in and I can sit in discomfort because I've been through a lot of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've learned is I've got me.
It's such a big lesson. And also that tolerance to discomfort I feel sometimes that comes in waves for me. So I'm in a wave right now where I'm probably not very tolerant of discomfort, and it's sort of built and built and built. But then there'll be a time where I come out of that, wave and settle in a little bit more. And it's because life is all about the ebbs and flows, and you're gonna, like, you can't easy life. There's no such thing. Like, everybody has struggles, and so being better and more practiced at dealing with discomfort probably makes your life easier, because that stuff's going to come at you no matter what. And it probably leads really nicely into the coaching element of what you do. So I guess I'd really like you to dive into that a little bit. How did coaching become part of your life, and what has it opened up for you?
Yeah. Look, coaching was part of my life actually from my very first corporate job. Where I got introduced to this concept of agile coaching. And those that know about agile coaching will understand that it's very much about how to deliver a product or a project. And it's very process oriented and things like that. And I thought, it's got some merit. So I became an agile coach. I learned how to do it and loved it. I found that teams delivered faster and they got more high performance. But the more I delved into it, I realized that when I spent less time looking at process and more time actually understanding the individuals within the teams and how they worked together and what they really wanted out of life and what was going on for them, that, wow, it was like flicking a switch,
Mm.
And this high performing teams that we hear about all the time, that was where the magic was. It was when they built personal bonds. It was when we understood each other, and it was when we supported each other to reach the goals that we wanted. And so that really got me thinking about there's more to this coaching thing than agile coaching. And so I went and did an executive coaching course. I lapped it up. I remember being one of the youngest in the room, wondering at first, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Look at all these amazing people in this room. They're so smart, but I just loved it. And then I took everything that I learned and I started to use it in the corporate world. And then I realized, wow, I could actually benefit from having a coach of my own. And so I had the opportunity on and off to have different coaches. And it wasn't until probably a couple of years ago where I really dove into what it means to focus in on that truly kind of research backed, neuroscience based, trauma informed type coaching, and to really upskill and to have coaches coach me as well, where I realized there's magic to coaching. And I think the more I fell in love with it and the more I realized how much I had shifted and how much that had helped me, but also those around me, I realized that's where my heart was. My heart was in helping support people to have an environment where they feel both safe and challenged at the same time. So they feel safe to explore and safe to be vulnerable, but also they've got someone there holding the space to stretch and to really find what it means to do what they want to do, to be what they want to be. And what are their values? What does it mean to be them? I couldn't have answered that question 3 years ago, and now I can.
Yeah.
And more recently, I had quite a bad trot with my health. And I had to make a really hard decision. And that was to step back from corporate life. And at first, that decision, I remember thinking, I went back into my old pattern that my body did this to me, which, fair enough, I think, we're human. And then again, I've been coached through this big transformation in my life. And I realized that actually there was somewhat of a gift in this. So yes, my body had crashed again, quite substantially. There is no way I could have gone back to my corporate role, which was very demanding. But this amazing opportunity to create a flexible work environment for myself where I could be with the incredible women I've been wanting to serve day in, day out, just came to life. It's so aligned to all of my values and the purpose. And Shell, you've done your ideal day recently. It's aligned to my ideal day. And so I just grabbed it with both hands, because what better life than to be working with incredible humans to help them be everything that they wanted to be and everything that's already inside them.
Yeah. I love that because you started in your everyday work and you built up the skills and the prerequisites, I suppose, that you need. And then you shifted into you went from focusing on people in the workplace to focusing on people as people. And I feel like that's like next, like that's the level, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's many coaches that actually just stay in the people in the workplace. Like I think if you're a good coach, you look at people as people, but with the layer of
Absolutely.
workplace in it. But so now you're supporting women with your own coaching business. Yeah. Talk to
Yeah,
us about your
absolutely.
coaching business.
Alrighty. Well, the reality is it's new off the ground. And, I decided that I could really bring to life a space where women could take off the mask. Now, whether that's the mask that they put over illness or the mask of being a new mum and really struggling with just life day to day, or, you know, other traumas that they've been through in the past, doesn't matter what it is. And just come to a space where they can find community, through group programs and things like that. Because community, one of the things that I've found through Lipoedema is community is so powerful.
Yeah.
I was part of the Lipoedema Australia board and, the different groups that we have and the lunches that we have and the conferences. That community there's something magical about it. And so to have that support in a coaching environment, I think is amazing. And then really it's all about helping women find their voice, their identity, their power, and realizing that it's not about teaching new skills or new capability, that everything that they need is already within them. They just need the time, compassion for themselves, love and trust to reveal it. And, without having to spend ridiculous amounts of time on it, because most women, let's be honest, they're time poor enough, probably guilty about not spending enough time at work or with the kids or whatever it might be. But, being able to spend that hour for themselves every couple of weeks, is
And
really,
tap into
really,
what they already have. They probably because the masks have been covering up what they already have. And I think that
yeah.
the interesting thing about masks is they're not always ours. They've been given to
No,
us.
absolutely.
So, with the women that you have worked with, what patterns or themes do you notice other than the fact that it's within us? I love that message. I think our listeners can take something away from that and feel like, they're not starting from scratch or learning a new capability, which is scary
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
intimidating, but it's within you.
Yes.
Is there any other patterns or themes that you notice from the women who come to you for support?
Yeah. So I think, the reality is that a lot of women that I talk to, they're people pleasers. We're very much, and it's probably the way we were raised, we're raised to say yes. And how can I help you? And how can I do everything for everyone around me without boundaries and without actually doing anything for ourselves? And a lot of women, they've lost their sense of self. They've lost their sovereignty and they struggle to put up a boundary to say, no, thanks, or sorry, I can't. And, there's a lot of guilt involved with putting up boundaries. And there's already the guilt of, well, because I've got this illness, I'm not being there for my family as much as I want to, or I'm spending too much money on treatments or whatever it might be. And so these incredible women are inevitably playing small and they've got so much to give, but until they can work through, how to set boundaries. The first time I set a boundary, oh my goodness, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I deliberated on it for days and I practiced it in front of the mirror and I did all sorts of
Gathering
things.
your rationale together in case they ask, which they never do because nobody cares, but you've got it there.
But I had an amazing
No,
case.
it's true. Oh my God. And you say it
I could have gone
anyway.
to a courtroom.
Thank you.
And I was terrified, right? What if and in transparency, it was with my mother, right? And my mother and I are the best of friends. I thought, what if this boundary kills our friendship? What if she doesn't love me anymore? And guess what? We're still the best of friends. She still loves me. In fact, she loves me more because I'm being real with her, I think. Or I feel extra love coming my way. And she's proud of me for setting boundaries. And so I think that is probably the patterns that I notice most, right? Is that people pleasing, lack of boundaries, guilt, and having that drive, a lot of what we do. And I think what's really important to notice, though, is that there are absolutely themes, but what caused that in one woman versus another can be entirely different. And so it's so important to really, build that connection individually and understand, what life has been for every single individual and what it means for them moving forward.
Love that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It certainly rings true in my head.
For sure. I had a conversation yesterday with my psychologist about boundaries. And I said, I had to say something to my mum and I was waiting for the reaction. I didn't want to say it because there was going to be a reaction. And he's like, well, there might not be. Just because there was a reaction one time doesn't mean it's going to be a reaction this time. So I just point blank said, no, I want to go by myself. I wanted to go by myself somewhere because I wanted to enjoy time in the car and listen to my music. And she's like, yeah, no worries. I was like, do you know how much I deliberate? Oh my goodness.
So true.
And you said the rationale, once we start putting rationale into it and because of this, we start to lessen the impact of what it was, because then we feel like we're making excuses and then it just takes the power away from this beautiful boundary that, no, this is what I need.
Yeah.
We're so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For someone listening who feels a bit stuck or overwhelmed, what's one place you'd invite them to start?
I think giving yourself permission to press pause on the fight. And that's a really hard thing to do. It's so easy for me to say. But I think when you're living with lipoedema or with chronic illness generally, you always feel like you have to push harder, cope better, or fix yourself.
Yeah.
And then that creates this overwhelm, right? And overwhelm isn't a signal that you're failing, which is typically what we think it is. It's just a sign that we've been carrying way too much for way too long. So I kind of like to think about starting, inevitably when we're overwhelmed, we want control. And instead of going with control, just asking yourself a question: what do I actually need right now? And giving yourself, lock yourself in the bathroom or wherever it needs to be, right? Give yourself the space for 5 minutes. What do I need right now? Stop fighting it and just listen. And it could be as simple as, you know what, Alyce, I'd really just like a cup of coffee and to sit down and listen to my favorite music for 10 minutes. And that's a bit of all right.
That's accessible, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the times
naming that
we
thing.
need something big and inaccessible, and usually it's just something really simple.
Yeah. And just naming it is, I call that self-leadership. Acknowledging it, giving yourself the space to do that. You don't need a 5-year plan to start with. You just need permission to listen to yourself. And, the program that I'm kicking off in my business is actually called Leading Yourself When Your Body Feels Out of Control.
I love that.
And it's just, the idea is to start with exactly that, the giving yourself permission just to pause and not fight all the time with your body. And just find some practical ways to lead yourself with compassion instead of pressure and control. And to just be able to find yourself again and to connect with your body, Shelley, like what you said earlier, to always feel this disconnect and then to bring it back together and to feel whole and to realize that when you find that, regardless of your illness or other things that have previously held you back, you can actually accomplish everything that you want to.
This is such a timely conversation that we're having, just in terms of where my brain's at the moment, because this morning I was just thinking, I have goals obviously for this year, and January is usually the place where we reflect on what those goals are. And one of my goals was about, movement, and it didn't have to be strenuous exercise. I was really just taking it down a notch. And then this week I sort of had a bad night's sleep. Nova was up a little bit, and then so I didn't exercise the next day, and then I started getting unwell, so I haven't exercised. And so in terms of looking at the success of my week, it hasn't been such a successful week. And this morning I was reflecting on that, saying, well, next week, just do it regardless. Do it sad, do it tired, but do it in a way that still respects where you're at.
Yeah.
So roll out of bed and do a workout, But if you're tired, do something gentle. If you're angry, do something more strenuous, or and just like do it no matter what. And just show up the way you are. And I thought, I wonder if I could next week do it regardless. But that sounds dismissive, and I don't know how to
Yeah.
communicate the fact that it's adding in that layer of checking in with yourself first. I mean, like, so where am I at and what am I capable of now? And then like managing to do it that way.
Yeah.
But just do it regardless.
Yeah.
Something.
And maybe it's just meeting yourself where you are rather than doing it regardless. What you're doing is meeting yourself right where you are on that day at that moment. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you'll show up every day for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge movement forward. And a lot of women are showing up for everyone else around them, but not for themselves. And so I think you're amazing because, yes, it's your New Year's resolution, it's your goal, but the showing up and meeting yourself where you are each day, and that will be different each day, is okay.
Yeah.
But you're showing up for you because that's something that you value. You value your health and your workout and what that brings your life.
Yeah, movement is, and it's not, as you said before, like walking was to lose weight, and there is an element of that. Like there is a bit of energy in exercise, but also it's mental health for me. And so it's like I've got to move my body, not like even more so if I'm not doing too well or not coping too well or a little bit sad or something. Like it's more important, but it's the type of movement and the energy that I put towards it, not like just push through sort of thing. It's like, no, do it alongside it, alongside that energy, and it's different. It's the same action, but it's a different intention and energy.
The intention.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's beautiful.
So I don't know, this whole conversation is just so timely. I've got a lot to reflect on from what you're talking about, Alyce, already. I'm going to take a minute after this.
Hey, our last question. What would you love listeners to take away from your story and the work you're doing now?
One line. You've got you.
You've got you.
Because we look externally all the time. We're always looking for the next fix. We're always looking for the next thing that's going to work. And we've got it. It's within us. We just haven't connected to ourselves.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it sounds silly, but there was a time when I was still learning that I've got me, where I would actually wake up and go, "You've got this. You've got, I've got me." And if I needed to make a decision, and I was like, "Oh God, okay, this could be a pearler if it goes wrong. It's all right. I've got me." And you know what? If it goes wrong, it does. That's okay. We'll figure it out because I've got me.
Yeah.
And I don't need external validation or external input necessarily. Sometimes the decision's all mine, and that's okay. It doesn't mean I don't listen to other people. At the heart of it, I need to come back to what aligns to me.
I love that. And I'm just thinking, for those people who are listening that feel like they need a bit of work in that space, I'm talking about myself. If anybody feels like Tiana feels, where can the Lipoedema community find you?
So you can find me at revealperformance.com.au and also on Insta as Reveal Performance. And if you hop on there, you'll be able to see a link to a webinar that I'll be running in February. And as Lipoedema podcast listeners, you get a freebie on this one. So you can join my 90-minute webinar, which is kind of the introduction to leading yourself when your body feels out of control.
Nice.
So, join me there, have a chat with me. And, it might be a call and you might say, actually, it's not for me. And that's okay. Yeah. But if you think it is, then come and join me. I'd love to have you. The more women I can, support, the better. That's what I'm here for.
Love that. Reveal Performance.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. And that webinar, that's really good because it will give people like a much more deeper understanding about what you can offer and that flavor. Because I think coaching is so personal and intimate, like having somebody support them through their life, you have to have that connection. So
got to have someone resonate with you.
Yeah. Love that.
Sure. Yeah. Alyce, thank you so much joining us all the way from Colombia.
We didn't actually ask you what time it was in Colombia right now.
It is 8:30 in the evening. in
Okay,
Colombia.
that's
that's not
okay.
too bad.
It's not crazy.
No, it's actually, it works out really well.
Oh, good.
And,
I don't feel too
and
bad
I've
about
managed
that.
to set up my makeshift office. It's great.
Love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alyce, and we can't wait to see what
Thank you.
happens.
Yeah, it's reveal performance. Yay.
Yay!
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Lipoedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.